Welcome to episode 19 of the Soulful Menopause podcast. Today we're chatting with Lisa Copeland. Lisa is a leading, internationally recognized love coach and dating expert for women over 50. So if you're single or if you're staying in an unhappy relationship because you're feeling overwhelmed by fears of what it means to be single again, this episode is most definitely for you. Welcome to the Soulful Menopause podcast. Discover how to transform the chaos of menopause into vibrant health and a soulful life you'll love. I'm Sally Love, natural nutritionist and soul wisdom coach. I want you to experience a soulful menopause that'll guide you into the best years of your life. Hi there, Fire Moon Goddess. Well, I am so excited to be sharing with you a wonderful chat I had with Lisa Copeland, who's a love coach and dating expert for women over 50. Honestly, she made me see so many things from a different perspective, such as, why we need to approach dating differently in our 50s and beyond, and what role our DNA plays in who we're attracted to. How limiting beliefs that we hold can stop us in our tracks and prevent us from being in a fulfilling relationship. I mean, so much more. You're really going to love this episode, and it was such fun speaking with her, and I bet you're going to receive as many aha moments by listening to this as I did. But just to start, I want to give you a little bit of background on Lisa. Lisa Copeland is a leading, internationally recognized love coach and dating expert for women over 50. She's the Amazon best-selling author of The Winning Dating Formula for Women Over 50. And she's a regular Huffington Post contributor, and she's also appeared on ABC and Fox. She inspires and teaches women how to feel confident, empowered and joyful dating after 50. Yes, girls, you can feel joyful dating after 50. Lisa is going to tell you exactly how to do that, and it is more than possible. She's giving away a free copy of her ebook, The 5 Little Known Secrets to Finding a Quality Man. So I bet you want to get your hands on that one. Well, on the man as well as the ebook. And you can find a link to download your copy of her ebook in the show notes or by visiting her website, which is findaqualityman.com. So let's head straight over to that chat now. So hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Soulful Menopause podcast.
Hi, Sally. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here and that you're going to be, sharing some of your valuable wisdom with us today on dating over 50. I'm really excited about this. And I know that a lot of my listeners are going to be really interested in what you've got to share with us. So I thought that perhaps we can begin with your story and, why you're actually doing this work.
Sure. Well, I started dating in my 40s after a 24-year marriage ended, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I cried a lot because I didn't understand men. I didn't understand online dating. It was kind of new when I first started dating, and it almost had a stigma to it, a little bit of a stigma back then. It's very mainstream now, but it was like, oh, you're dating online? And anyway, I would just cry a lot is really the basic thing, like I said. And somehow I did manage to get into a relationship for 2.5 years, and then married my second husband for 2 years. And that was a huge lesson in intense chemistry. Like, we all think we want chemistry and attraction, and we had such an instant spark. It was so intense I would cry. I'm really not a big crier, but it sounds like it, but I'm really not. But it was so intense that when he would go away or leave, I would cry. But the chemistry hid. Well, it actually mixed up lust and love. And I thought I was in love when we were actually in lust. We married very quickly and it ended very quickly. And I came out of that relationship looking for a coach because I did not want to fail again. I was in my early 50s and I couldn't find a coach that dealt with women in their 50s. There were lots of young coaches, both men and women, but I felt like they had no clue what it was like to date in their 50s since they were so young. And I called my sister and I said, I'm doomed to never be in a relationship again. Now, I'm a really upbeat person too. But, we can get very dramatic about our emotional things. And my sister said, oh my God, you are like the most resourceful person I know. I know you can figure this out. This is why we all need coaches, because we need a second set of eyes to really kind of get us to see what we can't see when we get messed up, when we are really quagmired in our own stuff.
Absolutely.
And so I began figuring it out. I began to really understand men. I began to really learn the ins and outs of dating them. And I started to have fun. And my friends said, what are you doing? And I would give them tips and they would have fun. And that's when I ran across a statistic of how many marriages over 50 were ending. And I thought, oh my God, I do not want another woman to sit and cry as much as I did. Because if a man didn't call me back, I would go, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And it really has nothing to do with what you do wrong. You just don't fit the picture of who they want. That's all it is. And we do it to men all the time. So that's when I began my business. I love helping women because I think it's important that we support each other. And I like to make their journey much easier than mine ever was with the systems and the tools that I figured out that my sister pushed me into. And so that dating can be fun, because it can be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to cry.
Well, you made a few really interesting points there, and firstly, I think on the point of actually needing a coach, because we can't actually see what's going on when we're right in the midst of things, and I totally agree with that. And especially at menopause, we've got so much going on. There are so many changes in our physical body. There are changes in our brain chemistry. All of our hormones are just going crazy, which affects how we think, how we feel, how we show up in the world. I feel it's a time when quite a lot of our fears can come to the surface, because we are being given an opportunity to actually deal with this at this time. And then it sort of shows us what our next pathway may be in life, because it's like, well, is this marriage what I really want anymore? And so when you say there's quite a large percentage of women leaving marriages in their 50s, I can quite understand that. And when you're in the middle of it, you just got so much going on, you can't see the wood for the trees.
That is really true. When I was in that relationship between my two marriages, that 2.5-year relationship, I had just started perimenopause, and I don't know how that guy stayed with me. I never, like I said, I'm really an upbeat person. It's probably why I was crying a lot, because I was in perimenopause.
Yep.
And I was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I never got blue. And in that perimenopause, I would have, I would get blue from time to time, and it is a tough time. You're right. And going through, now that you're saying it and brought it to my attention, that was probably why I had, so, besides not knowing what I was doing, but the emotional side was very much influenced by perimenopause, and it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
That was tough. It adds another layer.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned about support as well, and I think that especially as women, we can get a bit stoic and think, hey, I can do this myself, or we don't even begin to think about reaching out for support. We're thinking, oh god, I just getting into dating in my 50s again, and we just shelve that idea, and we don't reach out for support because firstly, we probably don't even think that that having some support and some guidance with dating in the 50s is even out there for us women.
Well, a lot of women also, they think they should know how to do it. Like they are almost embarrassed. Why do I need help with this? When I was younger, I didn't. But we were in a phase when we were younger where we were around lots of single people because so many people married from college, from coming into the early years of working, even from high school. And we were just always around single people, and that makes a huge difference. We didn't have to know what we were doing because everybody else was the same. And now, when we're also, by the way, we're also now, which affects us too, we are dating for different reasons than we did in our 20s, and we don't recognize it. So, and do you want to know what that is? Would that be helpful?
Absolutely, because I saw a quote on your book, somebody who's read your book and written a glowing review. That
Thank you.
part of what she said is I didn't realize I'd held on to old ideas from my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, please enlighten us, Lisa.
I would love to. So in our 20s, we're actually building our world with whatever partner that we're with. It's the house, the dog, the kids, the cat, the jobs. It's just building a world, and everything goes from that creating of a world. We also, when we're looking for a man at that time in our lives, we don't recognize this consciously, but it's actually in our DNA coding. We're looking for someone that is going to be like how Darwin was, the survival of the fittest, who can give us children that will survive. Even though in today's world, surviving is a whole different thing. It's in our DNA. That's how people would have looked back in the caveman days for the strongest man to have strong children with. And that's why we looked for someone super handsome and super strong. And so here we are in our 50s, and we're going out and looking for the same thing. And we go online and we see people that look like our grandpas and our fathers, and we don't recognize the aging process that we've all gone through. But we, in our 50s and 60s and 70s, and even later, women and men connect, all the way through if they want to, and their whole lives. But what we're really looking for at this time in our lives, because we built that world, we're really looking for someone to play with. Usually many have an empty nest by the time they're 50, not all, but many do. And they want a companion, someone to play with, someone that has their back, someone to support them through the ups and downs of life, and just that companionship. And but the problem is, instead of looking for that, most of us are still looking for that strong, fit guy, because that's how we knew how to date in our 20s. It was innate. And that goes back to why people don't realize they need help in their 50s, because they're actually looking for the wrong thing. Attraction and chemistry are amazing, but over time, everybody loses their looks. We can still be beautiful. Don't get me wrong, and handsome. They're just not the same as in our 20s. And we really want to be looking for men that will be kind, who will just make us laugh, who will be there for us, who will hold our hand when we need someone to hold our hand, or bring us a glass of wine at the end of the day when we've had a bad day. That's what's really important.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense, Lisa. I didn't really put two and two together until you talked about that, of course, in our DNA, like you're saying, when we're younger, we get attracted to these pheromones that the men are giving off, and we're like unconsciously searching for somebody that can provide healthy children for us. And of course, when we move into dating from perimenopause, menopause onwards, certainly from menopause onwards, there's no chance of having a child then. So it's like, well, we've got to restructure the way that we approach this, because it's no longer driven by our DNA of what we need as far as producing healthy offspring.
Right. And that's why people are embarrassed to get help, because they don't recognize that. And they think that it's that innate thing from their 20s, and it's not. And I've had clients say to me it's the best thing they ever did, because they were very focused, narrow focused on what they thought they needed. And it really expands your life to look at, really what you need at this time in your life versus what your hormones and your body signals were telling you back in your 20s.
And I just want to go back to another point that you made earlier, which was women asking themselves, who've come out of a marriage for maybe many years, they've been in that marriage, and then they're sort of saying, well, what did I do wrong? And before we even start thinking about dating, I suppose we have to address this sort of mindset of where they're blaming themselves, or whether they're feeling that they're not lovable enough, or do you find that you have to do work with women on that before they can even begin to think about dating again?
Oh, yeah. So when I first start working with women, one of the things we really work on is, number one, the limiting beliefs holding them back, because so many women have belief systems about dating that may or may not be true. Things like, who's going to really want me at this age? Lots of men do. And one of the reasons, one of the reasons for that is because you share history. Most men will try dating younger women and they find, oh my God, I have nothing in common with them. And also, younger women really don't want some regular guy. Most younger women, when they go for an older man, it's because he's very wealthy. Because otherwise there's too much of a disconnect. So the other kinds of limiting beliefs I'll hear is, I'm too heavy. I need to lose weight, or I don't think I'm pretty enough, or no men are out there to date, or I can't go online, there's just no way. Different kinds of limiting beliefs that we carry within us that usually come from childhood. I've even had many clients who have said to me, my parents told me I was too smart when I was younger, to not be so smart. And we work on them getting into their authentic selves, because that's what's so important. You do want to be you, and you want someone to love you for you, because you cannot sustain being someone else past like 6 weeks to 6 months max. It's too difficult. So the first thing we work on is breaking through limiting beliefs, so that women can see, oh my God, this is the first place I'm holding myself back. Then we start to work on feeling good about who they are, because most of us look in the mirror and we see wrinkles, or we see, our arms saggy, our bodies, totally different from babies than the first time around when we dated. And we pick on ourselves. I mean, we just look at ourselves and pound ourselves, because we're comparing ourselves to a 20-year-old. We're not 20. We need to come to that place of really appreciating who we are in our 50s and 60s and 70s and older. Because like I mentioned earlier, we are beautiful. It's in a different way. And we have so much more wisdom, and our faces are still pretty. If you don't compare yourself to a 20-year-old, you're beautiful just where you are. And it's coming to peace with who you are today. And men will love you who you are today, and they will see how beautiful you are, and more likely to tell you now than when you were in your 20s.
Yeah. I mean, I did ask a few people that I knew that are single and they're in their 50s, and I got a couple of responses that were worth talking about. I mean, one lady said that dating has always sucked, but dating over 50 has so many not fun nuances. I just don't do it. I just don't even try anymore. And then somebody else said, fear is her biggest obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
She says, having been hurt so very badly, I am paralyzed. In my youth, and this is actually funny, she says, in my youth, the way I would recover from heartbreak was having a shag.
You still can. Just stay safe about it, because STDs over 50, actually I think it's over 60, biggest age group right behind teenagers for STDs is people in this second half of life. Just be safe, but you can still get a good shag.
Yeah. But she goes on to say that she hasn't had a kiss for 5 years. She's too scared to go there, but she wants to be able to find that inner tart, that that free spirit of hers.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times we put up blocks. This is what else we work on to keep ourselves safe from getting hurt again, because it can be really painful. And, one of the biggest ways that I really help women to come into their own and to feel empowered in the dating world is, number one, to help them feel good about themselves. And number two, to help them get a really good understanding of who would make them happy at this time in their life. I just had a client write me today, and she's in a relationship where she is so happy. And she said, if I hadn't done that work with you to get that clear vision of the right man, I would have passed him up, because I would have gone for my old type who doesn't work anymore. And I'm just having the most amazing relationship. And we had to work through a lot of fears, we all have to. We try and protect ourselves. Who wants to get hurt? But if you're feeling empowered, you have choice. Now, this is not, I am woman, let me roar, I'm going to walk on you power of emasculating men. This, which I used to do like it was my job. I didn't even know I was doing it. And I had men say to me, you don't know how to let a man be a man. That was my second husband and that middle boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And they both said it. And but it's not that kind of, behavior with men. It's really coming from a place of what you want and having choice. And that's a lot of things women don't realize is they do have choice, and they have options, all kinds. For example, relationship wise, as a woman over 50, you have so many more options than a younger woman does. You can live with someone. You cannot live with someone and be in a committed relationship. You can have a friends with benefits. You can have a lover. You can have, you can get married. You don't have to get married. Whereas when you're usually starting this family thing, you almost have to get married in some capacity. That's just how it works. But now you have so much more freedom, and most women don't realize that. They don't recognize the freedom they have to choose at this time in their life. And one more thing about relationships. I have seen a trend with over 50s dating of relationships for 2 and 3 years, and then women taking a break and then going back in. And now this is just from what I've observed. I don't have scientific fact on this, but I think women outgrow the men, and then they move on. And then they go play by themselves for a while, and then they go back out there and get that companionship. And that's very normal too. It doesn't have to be a till death do you part.
That is such a good point, Lisa, because that is an old paradigm, really, isn't it? That's sort of like an old belief system that, we've been brought up with, and I think we're in sort of society now of where we're starting to pull away from that, but we still have these old patterns within us saying, oh no, you should be with somebody and find somebody you can settle down with for a long time. And if you don't, then you must be a failure for in some way.
Yes. And you're not. That paradigm is for younger. It's, a time in your life when you were younger. It's not. And that's what really traps women. Like, I know when I came out of my first marriage and my second marriage, I thought, oh, I want to get married again. I do not. I I do committed relationships, long-term relationships, and that's where I want to be. Because and I'm finding more and more women this way, like this, because they also like more time by themselves. We don't need, we want a man, but we don't need a man for that same emotional support like men need us, because we have girlfriends that we can be with, that we can process with, that we can talk with. And men don't have that. So you have a lot more freedom than you think you have, and a lot more choice than you think you have, if you can open your eyes to the new paradigms that are out there. And I feel we're a pioneering group of people with this, by the way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And that's really exciting, because I love the way that you see this, Lisa, and you're really opening my eyes to it, because you do think, oh, well, if I leave this relationship, there's going to be nothing out there for me. That's it. I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. How can I even think about dating in my 50s? And just the whole sense of overwhelm just like crashes down on you. So you can end up staying somewhere that's not, in a relationship that's not good for you.
Right. Right. That's exactly it. And people do, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can move on. And when you have the tools and the skills and the steps for going back out there, it's so much easier, versus most people are going out there. It's like they have a blindfold on. And that's why it's so hard. They're trying to navigate something that, in an old way, with an old type of man and an old type of relationship. And that would be pretty scary. And it is scary. I used to do that. It was scary. That's why I cried a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was something that you mentioned there, and you said there were the 2 points which were really important for people to get. Number 1 was to feel good about themselves. Number
Yes.
2 was, what qualities that they're looking for in a man. And I love that, because I think a lot of the time women don't even think about, well, what are the qualities that you're looking for in someone? They go, I just want companionship, I just want love, or great sex, or I just want to be with somebody who shares the same interests as me. But that's probably as far as they go.
Some people will write lists too. I remember before I was a dating coach, I wrote lists, and a man would have like 90% of what was on there, and yet it didn't work. And one of the reasons it didn't work, because another even more important piece you want to look at are the values that you share. When I work with clients, we create what's called a quality man template. That's getting clear on our old type and getting clear on our new type. That's what this template does. And what ends up happening, is I help them see values that are so important. They do the qualities too, but you want to be with a man who shares your values. That's really important. Otherwise, there's a huge disconnect. And you also want to really pay attention to how you feel around the man. Sometimes men have what we call perceived high value qualities. And what a perceived high value quality is something that's super important to us. So can I give you an example of that?
Please, yeah.
Okay, so back in the day, I was on a spiritual journey. I still am, but I was very vocal about it. I talked it more than lived it. And I wanted a man that was able to share that with me. And in comes this guy who's a yoga teacher and a meditator. And I'm like, oh my God, I hit the jackpot. This is the guy I want to marry. Well, the problem is I did not look at the bigger picture. He was financially insolvent. He was, he really did not have the best values, even though he was a meditator and and a teacher. Or he didn't share my values that I didn't have all these tools back then. And so he really wasn't a very great guy. But what I did was I fit that. He had that spiritual side to him over everything, which made it seem as if he was a great guy. And that's a lot of times what we do and how we really get hurt with that, because we do put so much expectation because he has one thing that is so important to us. And that perceived high value quality can also be money, cars, jobs, chemistry, or for some people, it's also sports. Some people think I have to have a person that will ride bicycles with me on the weekend, or someone that will hike on the weekend. And if they don't have that, they won't look at them. Yet that person who doesn't hike might be the greatest person for you, and you can hike with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have other things in common.
Mm.
So but can you see what I'm saying about how people can really get frustrated with dating when they're going in, they're almost looking for a needle in a haystack with those perceived high value qualities, or for not looking at a bigger picture of what a man needs to have for them to date him.
So you end up sort of like thinking, okay, these are the things I need, and maybe somebody pops into your life with those, and then suddenly there's this, oh, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. And then you can get caught, I suppose, in that cycle, just attracting the same type of person in, but not really understanding why. So you're just getting frustrated, and you're just thinking, well, there's nobody, you're making an assumption that there's nobody out there that's right for you, which is probably completely wrong assumption.
Yeah, that's right. So, I have my clients look at what their old type is and their new type. So just to give you an example from my own life, when I started doing this work, I created what's called a pattern chart. And that was looking at just what you said, the patterns of men I was always attracted to. And it was a really arrogant, intelligent, funny man whose emotional Achilles heel was abandonment. And so I used to bring in wounded birds, and then I would overgive to try and make them better so they could give to me. And this is something I hear about all the time from women. They overgive. And what ends up happening is, as what happened to me and with my clients, is number one, they have to fix themselves. We cannot fix them. And number two, they start to resent us because they feel controlled, and we resent them for not appreciating all we're giving up to do for them. Mm-hmm. So when I had this recognition of who I was always attracted to, I then created the quality man template part, which gave me that clear vision of who I wanted. And it turned to a really kind, humble, successful man who communicated well and who I could enjoy life with. I mean, that's a total difference there. But I had to get the recognition first of who it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of work involved before you even start thinking about dating again.
Well, but that shouldn't overwhelm. It's really fun, actually. And with clients, when they're doing it, they go, oh my God. I've had clients say to me, where were you when my marriage was going on, or when I was going to get married so I could have seen this?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, another thing that holds people back, I think, even to start thinking about dating again, is that fear. And then the fear comes up, and I always talk about change doesn't happen in your comfort zone. If you're feeling comfortable, change isn't happening within that. You have to step outside of your comfort zone in order to bring some new change into your life. And with that stepping out of your comfort zone is that sense of fear that can come up, and that, oh golly, those doubts and things that we have. And I think sometimes we could probably listen to that a little bit too much and then retreat back into our comfort zone, and because we think, oh well, that fear is just showing me that I'm not ready to actually start dating, and so it becomes a self-sabotage in a way.
Yes, exactly. That's right. You hit the nail on the head.
So I love that you help women through all of that, which is fantastic. And so you've already shared many different things that you do to help women prepare themselves for starting dating again. What actually happens then when they are ready to start dating? What do you help women with there?
Well, they're so out of, you do go out of your comfort zone when you look at new paradigms. And what will happen is they'll get really scared. And then I talk them down from the ledge and help them go into baby steps. I'm a real big believer when you're in fear, you want to take a baby step. Or if you're afraid to go online, you just want to take 10 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes. It's contained. Okay, I'll try this for 10 minutes because anybody can usually tolerate 10 minutes and you go online. But that's one of the biggest things I find to happen at that particular step, just about to go on, and all of a sudden every fear kicks in and we just start working through them and we start moving forward in baby steps again. I think the other fear that comes up is how to deal with particular situations that come up. Things like, what do you do when a guy's texting you or even sexting you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with sexual dysfunction that shows up? What do you do? How do I answer someone's email? A lot of that is just supporting my clients as you go through the different phases that come up. And the reason that's so good is because we don't know our next step. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. When we're emotionally attached to something happening, we cannot see clearly. And clients will say to me, oh my God, I couldn't have done this without you, because they just didn't know what to do next. And so that's probably the biggest thing, is finding a next step. And the thing is we'll turn to our friends a lot of times, but our friends, they mean well. They're very compassionate and protective of us. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're telling you what you really need to know or what to do to move forward, because they don't want to see you get hurt. And I don't want to see clients get hurt either. I just know the step to go through and how to support them so they don't get hurt. But what our friends do, or so it hurts less. Looking for love can hurt because we're very attached with our hearts to things. And that's why you just want to have steps when things aren't going right. What do you do next? But lots of fears do come up. I mean, just tons and tons and lots of questions. Because again, nobody was born knowing how to date over 50.
No, exactly. And I really love your approach, Lisa, with taking the baby steps, because that's exactly what I do with my nutrition practice. It's just a little step at a time. Otherwise, it can get really overwhelming, and people then can just give up. And I think also baby steps really help us feel more and more confident, because we're given little things to do that we can do easily, and then that's, oh, I did that, fantastic. And then the next little baby step, oh yeah, I did that as well. And you can see this progression which leads to confidence and no overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When we get overwhelmed, that's when we want to quit. And I hate seeing women give up on this dream of having somebody in their life to have fun and to play with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually fears, or they're overwhelmed and they just don't know what to do next.
Mm-hmm. 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 I'm wondering, have you got any fun stories to share with us about, obviously not naming names, have you got any things that your clients, or maybe even some profound situations where some of your clients have faced something challenging or some hilarious thing that's happened with them through the dating process?
Well, I can tell you things that, yes, because I can't tell you from clients, but I'll tell you what happened to me because it's happened to clients too.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember having sex on a first date, and oh my God, I was during that perimenopause phase where your hormones are just off the charts. Some day you're like flat, and some days you could, you just, any guy will do, And, it was like devastating for me because one, I'd always been taught to be such a good girl.
Mm-hmm.
And, But when it did happen with a client, I just talked her, off the ledge of it's okay. You can have sex whenever you want to have sex. There's nobody telling you it's not okay except you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of what I had to do for myself. Actually, I was at the time seeing a therapist because this was in my 40s. I didn't know that much about people that were coaches then. That's a more recent thing. And um she just talked, said to me, it's okay. She gave me permission. And that's what I've had to do with a lot of different clients. I have to give them permission of it's okay to have sex, just be safe. And like I mentioned earlier, it's really important to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the funniest thing I ever had happen to me was I met a guy. He put his picture online and he was really cute online. And we had a great phone conversation. And then he shows up. He's about 350, 400 pounds. And I always give men a hug when I first meet them. I'm not into the handshake thing because I think the handshake is business and hug is more, you're already connecting from your heart. And that's what men are attracted to in us is our heart. That's what we really bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says to me, oh, my dog has fleas. And I have a dog. And I'm thinking, who's been snoring? You might have heard him snoring next to me. But the whole time we've been talking, but I was like, oh, my God, who does this? And then he had he tells me about his CPAP machine and all the medicines he's on. And I'm thinking, oh, my God.
Way to go at selling yourself.
And he had on like the plumber's pants, like they were coming down where when he sat down, because I got up to get something and you could see like the crack of his tush. And this was like, I think the worst date I ever had. But I also had a wonderful, wonderful date where I had this man, he like made it the most fun date I ever had. We went to eat. And I decided to go out of my comfort zone because I go to a restaurant and always order the same thing. And so he said, what do you want? And I go, you know what? Just surprise me. And now that could be tough for men because you got to be appreciative of whatever they surprise you with, even if you don't like it. But I tried some new foods that night that I never would have tried in a million years that I've actually ordered them since.
Oh, fantastic.
Then he said, oh my gosh, let's go somewhere else for dessert. And so we went for dessert and it was just somewhere else. It was just such a fun date. A lot of it was because I let myself be spontaneous and I just let him surprise me the whole night. And it was really fun. I mean, it was just try it sometime. It's just fun.
How wonderful. That sounds great. And I just want to go back to something you were saying earlier, actually, sir, about having sex on the first date. And then like when you said, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm always brought up to be a good girl sort of thing. And that's something where there is most definitely a male and female divide, because us women, we see it as something shameful and the men are strutting around like peacocks, and another notch on their bedpost that they feel really proud of, and it's amazing the difference between that thought pattern and that those judgments that are made, whether it's a man or a woman doing it.
Right. It is. And I have to say though, the big problem, you're very right about that. And the biggest problem though with first date sex, men do like to pursue. And you are the prize. I always tell women, you are the prize. You get to determine when you want to have sex or when you want anything else when it comes to dating, and a man can work for it. But so sometimes when you have first date sex, it may not go into a relationship because it was too quick. But that being said, don't beat yourself up like I did and like my client did, because you didn't do anything wrong. Your hormones kicked in. I would say you go, girl, you get to strut around too. I made that choice.
Yeah.
But back when it happened to me, I was not in that empowering place. I was giving my power away big time. And that's what I teach women, is to come back into their power and honor themselves for what they want, not bend like a pretzel for the guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how you actually help women through this process, Lisa. Is it all online courses or one-to-ones, or a mixture of them? How do you actually help women through this?
So I work with women either in my group, and I love my group. It's an ongoing group. I do not start a group twice a year or anything like that. Everybody is at different levels, and that's why I love it, because for the people who are just starting out on the journey, they get very motivated and inspired hearing that women overcame the fears, overcame the limiting beliefs, use the tools, and are actually out there dating. And recently I had a woman in my group. She was in her 70s. She met a guy. I mean, she was so happy. And this is because she did, she was there, she participated, and she used the dating strategies for women over 50. And it was like the best. I've had women get married from that group. I've had women get boyfriends. I've had women do what I call practice relationships. But also it's great for the women that have been in the group for a while to hear what newbies are going through, because they forget some of those strategies, and it's really helpful to them. So the group is a wonderful place. It's a community, and women feel like they're not alone.
I love that. Sorry, Lisa, I just want to cut in there, sorry, because I really don't want to let this go away without me sort of brushing off onto something else. But I think that group is fabulous, because I bet there are so many women listening to this right now who are in their 50s or over, and have got lots of fears about going into dating again, and they're feeling very isolated because maybe they don't know anyone else who's in the same situation. They're saying the rest of their friends and families are all in these long-term happy relationships, and so they're beating themselves up, as we were talking about before, about what did I do wrong and everything, and they're just feeling isolated. So being in a beautiful group like you provide for people, Lisa, that sounds wonderful. And that alone, being in a group, can make a huge difference. And in fact, I know that it makes a hormonal difference too. For women actually receiving emotional support and mental support, it can really balance the hormones.
Oh, wow. Now that I didn't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. So sorry, I thought that was I think that your group is invaluable for that.
Oh,
so yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And the other thing about the group, it's a small group. I always keep it no more than 12 to 15, because I want to check in with everyone. I mean, everyone talks, because I can't help them if they don't tell me what's going on. And then we do some content, and they're following. It's a whole program. They get everything. But at the end of every call, I do some coaching. But at the end of every call, I make sure everybody feels they have a next step, because I want them moving forward. I talked about next steps earlier. We don't usually know what our next step is. And that next step keeps them moving forward. And they know what the next thing they need to do to get what they need to get done. And so it's really powerful. And I also work with women one-on-one, and that's a powerful experience too, because they have me totally devoted to them and in terms of their needs, their particular needs. And it just depends upon what the way you like to be helped, whether it's in a group or one-on-one with someone, but everybody who works with me gets the dating strategies. I wrap everybody in a cocoon of support because I feel I was so, crying a lot. I don't want women to go and cry a lot. That was just awful because I didn't know what to do next when something happened. And so it was my commitment to make sure everyone that works with me is wrapped in a cocoon of support. It's different levels of support depending if you're in a group or one-on-one, but you're still wrapped in a cocoon of support. So, you're not alone. And that's, you're just not on this journey alone. You have someone there with you who can show you what, and help you learn the tools so you know how to use them when you need them.
Absolutely. Wow, that sounds fantastic, Lisa. And I think that this is just so needed. I think that you're, on the cutting edge here because, and myself too, with having a business around menopause, is that this is something that hasn't been talked about before. It gets shoved under the carpet. Hush, hush, don't speak about these things, especially me being British and having that in my DNA. Stiff upper lip, be quiet about it and just move on, and I think it can be really quite terrifying for women. And as we've touched on, there are so many issues that can hold us back at this time, that our changing bodies, we can be worried about having sex again with somebody else, that can put us off. And so I know that you really support women through all of this that is happening, to not only prepare them to even be thinking about dating, but then moving into those baby steps, like you say, really helping women through one step at a time in getting yourself out there and drawing in men that you can have fun with.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing about the sex in there, just real quick? I think the other thing that women encounter is the tremendous amount of male sexual dysfunction that nobody ever talked about. And our mothers certainly didn't tell us this stuff. And our mothers didn't talk about menopause. They didn't really talk about any of this. And women are facing men that can never get erections, even with the drugs out there like Cialis and Viagra. They can't because of the other drugs they're on, like, blood pressure drugs and all the different drugs that they can possibly be on. And it's been really shocking for women. And for many women, they will say, I'm not going to be with a man unless he can get an erection and have intercourse. And then other women are open to a new paradigm of, well, there are other ways to have sex and intimacy as you're older. It doesn't have to be the same as in our 20s, and it can be just as enjoyable. And I also think a lot of women have a very difficult time with that. Many men really, because of prostate surgeries, they can't even have orgasms anymore. And I think so we've gone through menopause, female menopause, but men are really going through a very tough time with all this because so much of their feelings about themselves as men are so wrapped up in their ability to pleasure a woman and how they were when they were in their 20s. So I just wanted to bring that awareness up, that it is a huge issue in our age group.
And so you help women through that process as well, I presume.
Yeah. Yes. Because nobody told us this could happen. It's like shocking. It's like, what is this about? What's wrong with these men? And they can still pleasure you in lots of different ways. It's just different. And we have some issues too. It's not as extreme as some of the ones going on with men, but so there are issues, and nobody ever told us this. And
well, in menopause, of course, we can suffer from a lot of pain during intercourse, and then even sort of some shame over how we feel our bodies look and feel, and so we don't feel as confident in that, and that can take over our ability to enjoy sex or however it shows up. It's a big area to address, isn't it?
So I try and help women reframe what intimacy looks like. It doesn't have to be the old paradigm of just intercourse. It can be all kinds of other ways.
Yep,
Hmm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with everyone?
I guess it is. You said it really well when you said about stepping out of your comfort zone. I think if you can step out of your comfort zone and momentarily feel discomfort, you can really have fun dating. It's, it's changing some of the paradigms from your past and being open to new ways of mindsets and thinking, and to really come to a place of honoring you. When you honor you, that's when you're going to feel empowered and have way more joy and fun dating at this time in your life.
Yay, fantastic. Absolutely. This is certainly the time to be empowered. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
It really is a very powerful time for us women right now. I call it our fire moon goddess stage. And I do know that you're actually giving away a free ebook to everyone that's listening, which is called 5 Little Known Secrets for Finding a Quality Man.
Yes. So this ebook, what I love about it, it's a quick read, but it's going to, if you're in a rut, it's just going to give you some ideas for getting out of a rut, where to meet men, how to flirt. I do have my profile template in there for how to write a profile that's, that men say, oh, I want to meet her. Some tips about flirting. There's all kinds of, there's just all kinds of tips. So if you're in a rut, it'll give you a bit of a jump start. If you're just starting, it'll give you an idea of, what's coming and some tools that you can use. And if you've been doing it a while, it may just be a good dating for a while. It may just be a good refresh for you to say, oh yeah, I just haven't thought of that. This will be, maybe I'll go out and try this, because it's really important to stay motivated and inspired and to just keep taking action.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, how can people get hold of that ebook? I mean, I'm going to, by the way, everyone listening, I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes so you can get it there. But also, Lisa, you may want to share your website or any other ways that people can get hold of you.
Yes. So the name of my company is findaqualityman.com.
Yay!
That's how you can find, that's how you can find me. Or you can also look up Lisa Copeland Dating Coach, and for women over 50, and you'll get to my website that way too, or the link that you're going to give, Sally.
Yeah, I'll give them all the links. I'll put a link to your website there as well. So anybody listening, just head to the show notes and all the information is there. You can click on a link and go straight to get Lisa's free ebook, and then they can get in touch with you as well, I presume, for a little chat about seeing whether the group coaching or one-to-one coaching with you is best for them.
Oh, definitely. They can write to me through Dear Lisa. There's different things on my site to, set up a complimentary time for us to talk and see how we can get you moving forward. And that's the key, is that momentum to move forward. And that's what's going to get you what you want, as long as you're taking steps towards it. And to also break through some of the fears that are holding you back, so that you feel safe to go out there and to really open your heart again.
Fantastic, Lisa. Thank you so much. That was really enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. It was fun. Thank you for having me.
To find out more about how you can live a soulful menopause, please visit soulfulmenopause.com. I'm really looking forward to being with you again soon. Bye for now.